I like the way you've given yourself the builder's stool.
Welcome to the Soul to Scene podcast, episode 22. I'm Andy Cooper from RMS Motoring, and today I'm joined by Ross Annett.
What's happening?
And today's very special guest, Mr. Ben Lawrence. Welcome, Ben.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening. 56 Oval on the forum. Beetle air-cooled enthusiast. A Straightliners, Northern Ireland. We're going to pick up on that later on. So a drag racing enthusiast as well, and an Essex man in Northern Ireland.
I know. 17 years.
Yeah, you wouldn't know it from the accent.
I know. No, it's never left me. I don't know why. You pick up all the phrases. It's funny, I was texting someone the other day and they're like, I don't know what you are talking about. What was it? We were talking about something and I used a Northern Irish expression for it. I think it was founded or something like that. And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I'm freezing cold. And they're like, you've changed. You know? But you pick up on all the expressions, but the accent's just stayed.
Yeah. Well, look, it's great to have you on. Before we get stuck into you, and we want to hear about you, Ross. Last time we were talking, I drove a spectacular amount of vehicles. You listened to that in the last podcast. I've driven bugger all since.
I'm kind of the same. I haven't done very much other than working a wee bit.
The weather has gone to hell. Ben, you were asking me earlier on about my Yaris, which you could write your name on. It's that dirty sitting behind you here. And I was nipping out somewhere at lunchtime earlier on there and pulled off onto a back road, and there was a house being built, and there must have been red diesel or something on the road. And I went from a car, which I said earlier on, it has so much mechanical grip, until it has none. And then I'm like, and that was another conversation we had the other day about repairing alloy wheels. Thankfully, I didn't catch any wheels, but I nearly did.
You were just a passenger. That feeling of just being a passenger? It's like the scariest. Your arse is clenching when it's happening, and it's just the worst feeling in the world.
Doesn't matter how much experience you have. See if something catches you out like that, you're like, oh.
I aquaplaned on the way down here.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah. And I was thinking to myself on the way down, it's like, if I had a choice of what car to drive down here, you know, I don't have an illustrious car career when it comes to them, but for daily drivers. But you've got a choice from, like, it's basically a new Audi A4 Avant 40 TFSI or my 17-year-old 525 E61.
Yeah.
That car all day long. It's like, what better car could you be in this weather? It's just like,
absolutely.
Just like a tank,
yeah.
You know, and I love it. It's one of the best cars I've ever had. I love it.
Awesome. And Ross, you were having some crack in the X5 this morning, you were telling us.
Yeah, so I lost a wing mirror today.
Nice.
Just in the school run. And you know, so it's one of these things, it's not the end of the world. And the thing I've learned a wee bit as I've got older, I used to be so fussy and pernickety about cars, and you know, a blemish or a scratch or whatever else would have really like pissed me off and depressed me. This woman today clipped my wing mirror. It was an accident. The bit that pissed me off out of all of it though was she kept driving on, so I was out in a full-on Forrest Gump sprint and got up there. It's one. Look, accidents happen, but it's take ownership of things. So yeah, it was the wing mirror cleaned off it. So yeah,
it could have been a hell of a lot worse.
It could have been a lot. It could have been a kid stepping out. You know, it's the school run, and that was kind of the bit that got it for me. Her reaction was, "Oh, I knew I hit something, but didn't know what I hit." And I was like,
"Oh, Jesus!
What the fuck do you think you hit?" You know, it was your wing mirror clattered at some pace, and you kept driving. That was the bit that kind of got me more so in it, because you know, something, a wing mirror is a wing mirror. That's what you pay for. That's what insurance is for. You can sort that out. But yeah, it was just the kind of blasé attitude.
Unreal.
But look, it's one of these things.
Sure. Look, another thing since the last time I talked to you, there's a big thread in RMS at the moment about what's happening with interest rates and the cost of everything, and it's getting pretty grim out there. And I'm in a situation I've never been in before. So I have the Yaris on a PCP.
Yep.
First car I've ever done it with. So, but it's held its value and all the rest, so that's great. But I'm only paying 250 quid a month or something like that. So
nothing.
It's for nothing. But I'm in fantasy land. Come summertime next year, it's like, well, a balloon payment needs made. Yep. And I suppose previously I thought I could just borrow the money, keep the car. Nowadays, will the bank lend it to you? Is it going to cost you a fortune?
That's the big thing. I'm kind of similar, Andy. My lease is up, my PCP is up in January time with the X5.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same thing. There's what I have owing on it is a lot less than what the book value is on them. So, for the first time in a car in like 15 years, I'm in the potential to make money on it. But it's still coming up with a whack of money at the balloon payment at the end of it, as opposed to, throwing it in as you were used to. And so there'll be a couple of phone calls between BMW and myself, because I do think I'm going to keep the car. The shortage of new vehicles at the minute is nuts. So
It is bonkers.
Yeah.
We were talking to Andy about it.
Yeah,
we were looking at changing the family daily, which was the A4, and we were looking at going for a GTI Club Sport, and you just cannot put an order on one.
No.
There's serious component supply issues with Volkswagen. Across the board, I think Volkswagen have been hit one of the hardest by the sound of it. So
we were saying like wiring looms and stuff from Ukraine and that sort of stuff. Yeah.
So in the end, I mean, it's first world problems. It's like you're getting to choose a new car, and some poor soul in Ukraine's getting blown to bits, and it's like pieces. So you look at it in a kind of realistic way and say, well, hold on a minute. Is it, it's not such a big problem that I've got to wait 6 to 8 months for a car, but we put an order on a Mark 8 GTI there last week. So
lovely car.
Yeah.
So so colour, spec, manual, DSG. Come on, what's
everything that I think a Golf GTI should be, bar the gearbox. So it's red, tartan cloth.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But DSG.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and what about you can get active suspension and all that sort of stuff in them now? Do you go for that sort of stuff?
Basically it's pre-order car.
Oh, right, okay.
So you kind of get what's been spec'd on it. So I think it was like reversing camera and heated seats, stuff like that. No pan roof. But again, first world problems.
Oh, yeah, 5-door? Have they
I think they're all 5 door.
That was my next question. Have they went all 5 door?
Mark 7.5s were the last ones which you could get 3-door, because we Mark off the forum, Mark O'Neill, so he had one of the very last 3-door Mark 7.5s, because everything after that there's gone into 5-door.
Okay.
It's all gone to pot.
Oh, yeah. Still awesome to look forward to.
I'll tell you what, it's probably one of the cars that I'm actually excited, because ultimately, my wife will be driving it all the time.
Yeah.
So it's the family car. But I'm really excited.
But good fun. Yeah. Some change over the A4.
Yeah, even though it's relatively a similar engine, I'd say it's the 40 TFSI in the A4.
Oh yeah, okay.
Which is like nigh on 200 horsepower.
Yeah.
I can't remember how much horsepower the Mark 8 GTI's got. I don't know.
I have no idea.
I haven't. See, this is how much I looked at the specs.
Yeah. Well, what's even worse, the Audi, you're saying they call it a 40?
Yep.
What the hell's the 40 mean?
Right, so it's the way they've... it's basically about power levels.
Okay.
So 30... I can't remember the 35, but 35, you're around 150 horsepower.
Yeah.
40... you're around the 200 horsepower mark.
Okay.
And it sort of just...
What absolute mentalists come up with that idea?
Someone told me it was when they start going into electric hybrid stuff.
Oh, it's trying to match up with that.
Don't quote me on that.
Yeah, okay.
But because the whole 35, 40, 45... basically just...
We play fast and loose with the truth here anyway, so...
do we?
Do you know what? You're so... I'm not
coming
from
Essex, I think I'll fit in well.
Yeah. So that works for me, right? Okay, that kind of makes sense. Because you have like Jag have like P400 and all that sort of stuff, 350 for the height, the numbers, Yeah,
it's weird.
Yeah. Just give me
a car.
2-litre TFSI.
I'm quite easily kept. I mean, Andy probably knows this because I'm a fairly basic guy. I'm a no frills. Give me a steering wheel, and a speedo and a rev counter, and I'll be happy. I don't need all the modern stuff in a car.
Yeah.
I'm fairly low tech. I'm not into tech at all. What's all this with these intuitive buttons on the Mark 8 Golf? A lot of them are moaning about it.
Oh, the haptic buttons on
that's
the...
haptic,
on the in-car entertainment, it's pretty bad. Like,
is it?
Yeah,
well,
but it's perfect for you. Just leave it off.
Yeah.
just get in and drive it, and you'll be absolutely fine. Awesome. So, Gaz isn't joining us today. He had some last minute bits and pieces to catch up on. When is the golf due?
February.
Yep. Hope my Lotus is here before that. So there should be, where we're actually sitting here in my garage is where a flipping Lotus Amira should be sitting.
Now that's first world problems.
It is very much so, and there hasn't been a show that's went by that probably since episode 1 that I've been going, I've ordered a Lotus and it hasn't arrived.
But you know what I like? It's funny. I was thinking about it the other day. That, like, you see people with XYZ car, right? And I've never aspired to own a car like that. It's just never been on my radar of things. But I look at people, and and it would have been, you would get a lot of green eye monster out there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All I see is some guy who's worked bloody hard. Mm-hmm. You know
who? Andy.
Well, how else you supposed to get these things?
Says the man who stands at the stand all day in a pair of shorts talking shite. And
I just look at it in a completely different way. It's like, someone's worked hard for their dream, and sacrificed a lot to get that. And so when someone gets a new car and they're so driven by motor vehicles, I think, do you know what? Fair play.
I am with you 100%. Because again, and I do think it's something where we are car people. Car people love seeing other people who have worked hard and whose passion is a car. We talk about the Green Eye Monster. There's forum member Jamie Ferguson. Mm-hmm. So just picked up an RS6.
Mm-hmm. A beautiful RS6.
Gorgeous car.
Yep.
But Jamie, despite those big shiny white teeth, despite, he's a really humble guy, so he is. You wouldn't hear him. But so he got a picture put up of his daughter picking up the car. Agnes put this up. Have you seen this?
I have seen it, yeah.
And they had to take the post down because the amount of trolls who were hassling them, who were going on about it, tell me your daddy's a millionaire without telling me your daddy's a millionaire. And like this wee girl's 16 or 17, she's just there with her dad picking up his new car, and Jamie stayed out of the way, and he ended up having to send Agnes a message saying, look, lads, do me a favour, take that down. But it's just typical of that mentality.
Well, it's welcome to the wonderful modern day world we live in, isn't it?
There it is. Yeah. So
it's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, it's actually fantastic because, and I like what he did. I like the idea because those pages need a good trolling. Oh, yeah. See the dealer, like someone standing there, and God help some of the people that let their photos be taken, and delivered by marketing sales executive.
The handover videos.
Yeah, absolutely
cringe,
just absolutely cringe. So I think Jimmy played a blinder.
I think that's brilliant.
And I just think it's a shame that the
rest.
But look, 366 likes, 137 comments. Like it just
and that
went
was
far.
Before it was taken down. It was just trolls, just complete trolls.
Yeah, and I know. But what a beautiful car,
man! It's unreal. So it is unreal.
Well,
now that literally was impulsive arse Jamie, because he had the e-tron GT booked, and they were faffing around and they'd done this, that and the other, and he literally decided, I'm not fucking waiting anymore. Where's my car? And he goes, well, there could be another delay on it, could be this. And he goes, what's the story with the RS6? And he goes, well, it's a showroom model. He's like, I'll take it instead. And literally that's how he done the deal.
Unbelievable.
Why not?
Which is a word that I actually have in my mind not to say too much in this podcast, because I get an awful hard time about saying that word. Oh yeah, and I say it all the time.
Just say unreal instead.
Yeah. Unreal. So, but that is, and like that's, Members Cars and RMS continues to absolutely blow me away. And I mean everything from the likes of stuff that you're doing, the whole,
it's such
the John
an
Payton
eclectic
stuff.
mix, isn't it? And I like the fact that it's an eclectic mix where you can have the likes of my $2,500 E61 sitting out there in amongst all that other stuff, and it's like there's no hierarchy of I've got this.
No,
and you remember the Two Ronnie sketch where the three guys are all standing in a line, and it's like I'm taller than I'm better than you, and I look down on you, and it goes backwards and forwards, and the guy at the bottom, he just turns around and says, I know my place. That would be me.
Well, I'm just looking at the members car section. So look the range of stuff we have, from like Siebel's Mark 7 or Estate, an Evo 2, I thought that post by JH86 was brilliant. Blackie's new GTI Golf, but it's not Blackie's Golf. He was just trying to sell it to him. But
is he biting on it yet?
No, I don't think he's bit.
Is he not?
Yeah, but so you've got the C8 RS6. You've got a Mark 1 Octavia VRS wagon. You know, Bedford H.
Don't get me started on the word wagon.
Wagon. Yeah.
It's such an American thing, isn't it?
Oh,
Yeah, station.
man.
What about full SW?
It's an estate. I'm just going to start calling all my estate shooting brakes, you know?
Well, you did call your A4 an Avant earlier on.
Did I? Oh, I did, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
See, that's the
We're
trouble.
all guilty of it.
That's the trouble, because Audi call it an Avant. And I suppose Saab called theirs a sport wagon, didn't they? But actual wagon in general.
I had a Saab sport wagon, so they were a great car.
They were a brilliant car.
Yeah. Vectra in a frock, but sure, it was awesome with all this sort of...
My brother had a 2.8 V6 turbo one, you know. That was a brilliant car. But
every time they say wagon, it reminds me of, remember The Simpsons when Homer had the Canyonero wagon?
If you don't know what we're talking about, you need to get onto the RMS forum, but I'm kind of hoping everyone who listens to this podcast has a clue about what that is. But the members' car section. And do you know what? That's what I love about the forum, even the moderating team and the guys that run it. You know, there's just such a variety of, you know, there's Coog and his Suzuki Swift that he, you know, and
tracks the life out of.
Yeah, you know, but just stuff like that there is just... It's just great. I don't care. Don't care what you drive. If you like it and you've something to say about it, we want to know about it. You know?
But that's what we were touching on, because Andy phoned me last night just to get a bit of backstory on me, and there's
a very short call.
Backstory on me. You know, you could go quite a few places and get a backstory. It won't always be the same. But we were discussing the forum, and I've been here 17 years, and I think within a year of living in Northern Ireland, I'd signed up to the forum, and it's how come that forum has managed to somehow survive the social media cull of basically every internet forum on the planet, you know? Mm-hmm. So it annihilated all the forums. So how comes RMS has managed to, you know, do a Noah's Ark?
I get the full Jeremy Paxman here. Why? I have no idea.
Yeah, but it says a lot about the content and
the
readership, you know, the users. It's like it's somehow managed to stay afloat and thrive in amongst a sea of everybody else drowning. You know, all the forums have just gone.
Yeah, I don't know. And it's a real shame the forums are gone, because if you, especially the model-specific forums, if you have an issue with something, that's the place to get help. And some of those places have just dried up and disappeared.
Yep. Yeah. One of the things that I've kind of thought about the same things you have, Ben, because what keeps bringing us in to log in every day to see what's going on? And do you know something? I think that there's a good mix of people. At some stage, we've all met most of the people of the forum.
Yeah.
There's a good bunch there that are always available for help if you need it. And one of the things I actually like about the forum is the search function. As you said, Andy, it's, you know, in the days of social media when, you know, Facebook posts are, you know, those most popular at the top, trying to find something is a nightmare. Whereas RMS's search function, I have to say...
Should I pay this parking fine? and you will guaranteed get a few memes and a video and the right answer.
But, yeah, it's down to the users. It's down to the fact that it's still there. And is there advertising opportunities on it, Andy?
There could be advertising opportunities on it, Ross, indeed. And you need to speak to someone about that. That person might be me. I'm terrible at that.
It could be.
I'm terrible at that.
Can't beat monetising content.
Yeah. And now a word from our sponsors. Do you know why I really wanted to do fake ads on this? You know, like for some sort of fake like dealership on the Boucher Road. You know, like that, and look, just make up like Boucher Avenue, and you know, taxi special, and we'll
what do you mean fake taxis, Andy? What are you talking about?
We'll wind 100k off your Octavia when it's in for for a free taxi service. So
I think Nuri's got that covered, haven't they?
Oh yeah, that's well covered. That's well covered. So anyway, look, I haven't been up at much else. This weather is grim. The flipping my Lotus isn't here. I didn't mean to click on.
Sorry, we went off on a tangent.
Yeah. We did indeed. My Lotus isn't here. There was a video. Harry's Garage did a video there of interviewing Matt Windle, the MD of Lotus, and they say the cars are going to be here soon. I don't really want it now before Christmas. I'd rather it be a 2023 car. So, but I'll get it whenever I'm given it because I don't want to lose my position in the queue.
Is it done and built?
It's supposedly being built at the moment.
Right.
But I want to go and pick it up from the factory,
Don't look too stressed about it.
Well, this I've been flipping.
Well, when you look behind you and you see a Yaris that's getting used properly.
Staged.
It's absolutely staged. It's absolutely stinking. Yeah.
But you know, so there is something actually. For anybody who's listening, we're sitting in Andy's garage. He's what I said. And it's like the coolest podcast back setting.
You missed out a word from that Andy's garage.
Yeah,
Heated.
Yes.
Heated.
Yeah,
oh my God.
Triple garage.
Honestly, Northern Ireland drinking water, NI water, free water in the bottle.
Serious garage, Andy. But again, it's one of those things, anywhere it comes down to, like, for me as a car guy coming in here to see, like, this is something you've worked hard for. This is your baby here. And it's
my man cave for sure.
It's awesome to see, man. And honestly, it really is. And so we're sitting in here, we're podcasting around it. We've got a big screen in front of us. We've got a dirty Yaris GR behind us.
It's absolutely horrendous.
It's a bit of fun. What a cool place to do it.
Wait, stop all this flipping whataboutery, flipping backslapping here. Ben, welcome to the show. We're gonna talk about you now because I've had enough of talking about me and my garage and flipping cars I don't have here.
Have you managed to do a single podcast without mentioning the Yaris? Is there one?
No.
Right.
No.
You're going to take me out in that one day.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll sell it to you.
No, you're all right. You know, I always plead poverty, you know.
Yeah. Look, you're on the forum. You're here 17 years. You're a big air-cooled man, which is not your bread and butter, but almost your bread and butter, working on everything from Beetles to, we were talking earlier on, to classic Aston Vantages.
Yep.
Also involved in the drag racing scene.
Yep.
So, what's the deal? Tell us about yourself. So, first of all, what are you working? Have you anything in the garage at the moment you're working on?
I've got 74 Beetle that we built over the lockdowns.
Okay. Drag car or a road car?
Complete road car. It was a bit of fun for my daughter. Originally, I built that car, started building the car because I wanted to give my daughter something to focus on, you know, focus her energy, because she's got a lot of it. So, but as soon as I got stuck into it, it was pretty clear she didn't want nothing to do with it. And, you know, there's no way I'm going to turn around to her and say, right, you're coming in the garage today and you're turning Spanish. I'm not that sort of dad. So I thought, right, if she's not going to be part of that process, then at least let's make this the car that when she turns up to school in it and when she goes and gets the ice cream, it's her car and she feels special, you know. So she picked the colour and a lot of the sort of how the car was going to look.
I'm going to get a picture of that up. I'm going to put that in the show notes as well. So, how cool to be able to. We were talking about this about Beetles and the other night, and they're a Marmite car, aren't they? So some people love them, and some people hate them.
There's no in between.
No.
With so many cars, you can go, oh, they're all right. I wouldn't be dying about them, but they're all right.
Yep.
Whereas with a Beetle, it's either love them or hate them, like, and absolutely hate them. And you'll find that with, like, a lot of the Mark 1, Mark 2 Escort guys, they will just, like, you know, it will make their toes curl up at the faults of a Volkswagen Beetle. You know?
And thinking about that, so they're not for me. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, completely.
But see the thought of you saying, well, it's for your daughter, and she'll take it. I was like, how cool!
Man, awesome.
That sounds absolutely incredible. So,
you know where that picture is?
Yeah, I'm just. Is it this car?
Yep, it's that car.
This minty green.
Yep.
What's the colour?
That's my take on Ford's 1970s colour, Ford Peppermint Green.
Peppermint green.
Yep,
that's awesome looking. Yeah, so we'll post that in the show notes and where's this?
That's Mizzen Head.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
I did pretty much this time last year. One of my best friends, bless her, she got cancer. And she had to move out of her premises in Cornwall. And because of COVID, trying to rent a property in Cornwall, everybody who had a rental property it just became a staycation property. House price, like the rental prices were just nuts. So for her to afford somewhere while she was having the treatment and stuff, it was just. So I said, look, we've got to do something for you, you know. So I did Malin to Mizzen in the Beetle in November, and you've got to remember, because there's a turbo motor in it. Normally, you would have like an air-cooled Porsche. You'd have heat exchangers for your heating system.
Of course, because you've no piped water through a heater matrix. Yeah.
And so that's got no heating because I run J tubes from the cylinder heads for the turbo header, and so it was brutal. And all I had, I stole my daughter's little sort of snake hot water bottle, and every time I stopped at services, I'd go in there, get more boiling water, top it up, and it was just over my lap the whole journey. It was bitter, but brilliant. It was a brilliant adventure. I mean, we raised a lot of money. I think we raised over $5,000, and I can't thank everybody enough who donated to that and made Tan's life a lot more comfortable than it would have been. But I would love to do that one again, but over, say, 2 weeks, you know, and do the coast. Because I just literally went from point to point. So a lot of it was motorway just to get the job done. But I mean, the car didn't miss a beat. Yeah, it was unreal.
So what engine is it running? How much power? What's the story?
I mean, you know, from my username on the forum, a 56 Oval was my previous car, and that car had a 200 horsepower stroker motor in it. And it was way too much for the street. Way too much. I mean, that car. I remember racing Warren Mercer in his. What did he have back then?
R8 or something like that.
No, he had
M4.
M4.
Yeah.
And we were at Bishop's Court drag racing.
Yes. I've seen this.
And I raced Warren in the Beetle in his brand new M4, and I absolutely destroyed him. You know, that was a fast car.
That's unreal.
There's a video of that there.
Yeah. It was people don't understand how quickly you can make them things go. You know, and it's all about acceleration, and because you've got the engine
right over the back axle.
They just hook up so well. And then once you've got past the 8th mile, you're a passenger, and anything that's got a lot more horsepower is catching you. You know, but that first, 8th mile, you're away. And it's awesome. Good fun. But so I said this time, that's not happening. You know, it needs to be something fun. It was never going to be the original engine in the guise that it came with the car, because they're like a wheezy 40 horsepower. And they're fun to a degree if you just want.
What do they weigh? Under a ton, I'm sure.
The Oval was like 750.
Wow,
that'd be about 850, I'd say.
Nothing.
Yeah, nothing. So I took the original engine that came with the car. That car was £1,400, I think I paid for that, and compression tested it, and it was like 150 psi on all four. Bit of end float on the crank. I was like, nah, we'll use it as a test bed. So I had, a turbo from the old Vauxhall Nova 1500 TD, the old Isuzu engine.
Isuzu,
I had one of them sitting in the shed. I had a Renault 5 turbo carb sitting there, and I just made everything. And that whole turbo motor cost me £200 to build.
Unbelievable.
And it went
there's the word again, but that's unreal.
So it went from standard there 40 horsepower on £7 or £8 a boost. It made 75. So I almost doubled the factory output for £200.
Yeah, just by throwing stuff together.
Yeah, and it has helped. I mean, I cannot believe I drove that to England last year with all my plastering gear, because my brother's doing an extension, and I was going over there to a show at Santapod, and then was going to stay on at my brother's for a month, do his plastering. So I literally loaded the Beetle up with all the plastering gear, went over there and did all that, and it's just the thing it hasn't missed a beat.
So and this is I'm trying to get my head around this. So the day job was as a plaster. So you're
I'm retired.
I'm
done.
You're skimming walls and all the rest.
Yeah.
And like, are you not thinking about, right, I just want to work with really intricate, twin 45s or turbos or fuel systems and all that sort of kind of...
it's like...
And then when you're doing that, are you thinking, I wish I had plastic walls?
No, absolutely not. I've been on my own plastering and other stuff since 2004. And, I've got arthritis in my wrists and my shoulders and stuff from just being on the trail all the time. And I always said I would never make my hobby my job. And now I'm at that stage where it's actually a privilege to have my hobby paying my bills. That people phone me up and say, I've got your number from so-and-so, and they say that you're the man could you look at the car for me? And every time you get a call like that, it's like, it makes you think, wow, because every car that comes to me, I put 110% into it. It's like, it's not that's as good as I can get it. And there's always somewhere under the curve that isn't right, For me, when you're tuning an aspirated, carbureted car, there's always somewhere that needs work, and it's normally anyone can tune flat out. Yeah, top end horsepower. That is the easiest part of the equation, but making them drive and be docile on part throttle, on transition, that's where you have to put hours and hours of work in, and I won't stop until I get it until I'm happy with it. I've never been prepared to let a car go out the door and say, well, that's as good as you're going to get it. It's like, no, it stays with me until I know that thing is as bang on as it can be, and it takes a lot of work and effort. It really does.
But that's unbelievable.
That is obsession. I love it.
But I mean, it's like John Peden's Mark II Escort.
The silver one, yeah.
I mean, it's an incredible car. That's got a 2-litre Z-Tech in it that was built by Patton. They're good for, I think they were 130 horsepower standard. Patton's done all, it's a standard, all the standard factory components in the engine, but it's got skimmed head and all, it's been gone through, and it should be good for 170 horsepower. Now, you look under the bonnet, and I love the way John's done it. He's made it look like a factory BDA. You've got the retro sort of twin cam rocker cover on it, stuff like that. He even managed to get parts of a BDA airbox, because like they're hen's teeth, and if you did find one, it'd be fortunes. And believe it or not, that car there was a 4-door car.
I remember that, yeah.
Unreal.
He is...
Guy's a genius.
He is unbelievable, and he has been an absolute pleasure to work for. I think we did about 4 or 5 visits with John to get his car really where I wanted it. And you drive it now, and once it's warmed up, you'd think it was on fuel injection.
Well, I'm looking at. We'll post a picture in the show notes, but it's a silver 2-door, but wasn't a 2-door originally. Mark II with. Blew down the doors.
Am I right in saying, was it left-hand drive originally as
well?
It's
still left-hand drive. John wanted to retain it left-hand drive.
Okay.
I think it's good that he left it that way.
But I did see videos that either you or he had up on Instagram of doing railroad testing, and that goes back, I think, Ben, to why people do go to you now, because you're not a 9/10 person. You're obsessive about making sure that it's as good as if it was your car and you're driving it. And again, anybody who spends any time speaking to you, and this goes back to, I think, what we were all talking about passion. When you've got the passion in what you're doing, it's not just a job, it's your hobby. It's something you're passionate about. I think that's why, it shines through just what a kind of nice guy you are, and how you take these things on. And it's the same as Lee's Jetta,
amazing.
The work you've done that there and how that car sounds even. There's something so sexy about it, that how it looks, how it sounds, how it now drives. Connor can't sing your praises enough, as you're well aware of, just on the work. And as he says, it drives like a fuel-injected car.
Look, if people are worried about EVs taking over and all the rest, thank God with people like you, Ben, that will keep these old cars not only alive, but in their best possible shape of tune.
Yeah, I mean, as I said to you, I'm in a really privileged position that the old guys that did all this have retired. You know, they've retired shut shop, and the sons that were doing it, were working in the shop, they didn't necessarily have the interest in those cars. So they went with the more modern technology, whilst the garages, progressed in serving the community. So that you went from the carbureted aspirated cars into fuel injection, and you went into this plug-in era. And so the guys that were doing what I'm doing, most of them have retired now. So who fills that void?
Well, the dealers are having exactly the same problem at the moment, because they still need cars serviced, and people coming out of doing a motoring degree or whatever else, apprenticeship, they don't want to be working on technology that's going to be outdated in 5 or 10 years, because EVs are coming in, so they can't even get mechanics as it is.
There's more to it than that. I think that because of the 2 years of the lockdowns that we all went through, many industries lost a lot of their staff, whether it be if you're in the restaurant industry, in the pub industry, in the motoring industry. These guys and girls got put on furlough, had to do something with their time. If you were, extended periods of being furloughed, it's like, well, I'm not going to sit at home all day. So some of them started driving for the likes of, Amazon. And all of a sudden, you've got a workforce that has decided, hold on a minute, I can work for Amazon delivering parcels on a decent rate of pay without the pressures put upon me that particularly the vehicle industry give me, and the pub industry. I don't have that issue of working weekends. I've got much more flexible hours. So you've all of a sudden got a workforce that's just gone, no thanks, I'm not going back to that.
So it's such a brain drain, and then suddenly,
So I can totally see why, the motor industry has got a severe lack of technicians. Because they're like, no, I can get paid better money doing less and not having a stressful life. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, but you are a man by the sounds of things. You want a wee bit of stress with these vehicles. Why?
I think it's really important that you do stress yourself. And when I say stress, I don't mean like, I'm really stressed out. Stress as in put yourself under some sort of load. And that you've got to throw yourself into something and absorb yourself. And with that comes reward. And it's like that goes on from mental health. It's like with the Beetle that we just built. I don't necessarily get my enjoyment from driving them. My sole enjoyment is from building them. Because I can lose myself in the garage and be so consumed on just like building a throttle linkage for a carburetor that came off a Renault 5. How am I going to build a throttle linkage? Because it's on the opposite side of what it came with on the Volkswagen. And you think your way around it, and all of a sudden you've lost like 5 hours. But you've built something that cost you nothing because you've got it out of the scrap pile of other carburetors and you've built it. And it's like, it's therapy. I mean, it really is therapy. You're so absorbed.
So where did that come from? So how have you got to that point? Was this in the family then that were friends, or where did the love of cars come from?
My dad was a toolmaker for Ford Dagenham plant.
Okay.
So we were always
near home then. Back,
I mean, it's like 20-minute drive down to Dagenham plant. So we always had, Mark IV Cortina sitting out on axle stands on the estate, with the cylinder head ripped off it.
Brilliant.
All the time. But then my dad never wanted me to go to Fords.
Oh, really?
I've covered this before, and he knew the industry. My dad was a shop steward there at one point, and he's like, I don't care what you do, son, but you're not going and working for Fords.
Okay.
He was adamant, And I've got friends who left school who are my age. They're still working there, because they're one of my mates, his dad worked at Ford's.
Yeah.
And so for some people, it was just a natural thing that the family, son, whatever, went and worked for Ford's, and it has been a job for life.
And I can imagine that not only that, but friends and family all worked for them as well. It was like a big community,
enormous, enormous employer. I don't know what they do down there now. I know they used to do the diesel, diesel engines were being built down there, but I have no idea what they build. My mate sometimes sends me pictures from the Heritage Collection down there. Oh, I'm in the Heritage Centre today, just messing about, pushing. He's he keeps the railroads going and stuff like that down there. But it's a phenomenal site. It's unbelievable.
And so you didn't go into that, but you were tinkering at home then, but you were going into the plastering at the same time. No,
I went into the print.
Print?
Yeah,
okay.
I was in the print for years, and I'll keep that short. Just got fed up with it.
Yeah.
You went. I'm not even joking about this. When I was 22, finished my apprenticeship. 22-year-old was on £1,000 a week doing what I was doing.
What?
Yep. I was a scanner operator. Now, back in the day, we had drum scanners.
Okay.
So you scanned all the slide photos on a special machine that separated in CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, black.
Yeah.
And scanner operators were the prima donna.
Okay.
You were the man because you knew colour. Then all of a sudden, someone bought out a desktop scanner. It all went digital, and that was the end of it. It was like, I can see which way this is going, and basically you've got an industry that's going to go away from quality and look at price. It's how much can we get for price. So it was a race to the bottom, and I didn't want to be part of it. So I was like, right, what am I going to do now? And
what were you driving back then?
Oh my God. What was I driving back then? Oh man, one of the worst cars I've ever bought. A Mark V Ford Orion. Ooh. Yeah, it was my uncle's car.
What were we talking, like late 80s, early 90s?
No, that was a 90s car, 91, 92.
Yeah.
And it was Vicar Burgundy.
Oh, Vicar Burgundy,
yeah,
nice.
1400 LX.
Oh, beautiful. Sexy.
But for me, since my first ever car was for me, when I was 17, was a 1972 bay window camper.
Yeah, which is awesome, yeah.
Yeah, and all my mates were in XR3Is, RS turbos, and they're like, what are you doing? Yeah. But then when they see me just blatting around the country every weekend, just having a ball, and back then, all my mates had borrowed money to get these cars, so it was like, no, this is what I want to do. And so my boring cars were just a means to an end. It was always the Volkswagens that were. I'd always had two cars, the classic, but they weren't really classics back then. They were still like.
So there would be 15-year-old,
15
20-year-old?
to 17-year-old cars, The BMW's 17 years old, So they weren't old, but they were cheap.
Yeah.
And so I used the boring cars as a means to just get to work.
Yeah.
But I did laugh. I was thinking about this last night, that Orion, the Mark V Escort platform, has to be the worst interior Ford ever come up with.
Yeah.
It's horrible. I mean, it is just horrible. And I saw a Escort Cosworth for sale. Norman McCulloch fella. I know him. And I actually messaged him back because someone I know was possibly interested. But he had a really nice Imperial Blue.
Gorgeous.
60,000 or 70,000 miles from there. I mean, it was immaculate. But it was 65 grand. And I'm like, could I pay 65 grand to look at a Mark V dash? I couldn't do it. So it did, it sort of brought me back to that Orion. I've not had a good car career when it comes to,
But you had the camper, so there must have been a scene going on.
Oh, it's
back
phenomenal.
Then.
Phenomenal. Like there was this one show at Santa Pod Raceway called Bug Jam.
Yep.
And I think the first one I ever went to was 1990. And that just changed everything for me. It was like, it was a festival, it was drag racing, and it was all like one mark in a a huge...
Camping, barbecue, few beers, all the rest.
All the rest, yeah.
All the rest. Yeah, I suppose the early 90s, all the rest.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, you sent me a picture and of you. Speaking of all the rest, so you're a DJ.
Yep. I used to DJ. That is, believe it or not, that was original paint, van.
Okay, so we're looking at a camper here with a very young Ben with fairly curly looking hair here.
I just had it cut. It was down to here.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, seriously.
And a set of decks in the van?
1210s in the van with like a PA in it. And that van, Volkswagen split-screen van, 1966, one of 7 only ever built from the Hanover factory. That's twin sliding door from factory, factory ragtop, factory window skylights. The beacon on the front was because it was a baggage van for Lufthansa at Geneva Airport. It had 12,000 kilometres from new when I bought it.
Unreal.
Yeah. That van now, go on, have a guess. I know where it is. It's in a collection in America. How much do you reckon if you wanted to buy that van now?
Is it something bonkers like 6 figures? 100 grand or something like that?
Sorry, how much?
100 grand.
Double that.
Holy shit.
Yep.
And what did you give for it back then?
7.
Wow.
And I sold it for 20.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know?
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. The whole thing has just gone nuts. And that's why another reason I built that car.
Yeah.
Because
I'm much more endeared, by the way, to a camper than I am a Beetle. Yeah. I don't understand why, but yeah,
but it's like,
that's cool.
Why would you pay 40 grand to live like a homeless person? You know, it's just for me, they've gone too far.
Yeah,
you know, I look after quite a few.
Well, that's almost converted T6 money or something like that, isn't it? Yeah,
exactly. Or a proper bespoke built Heimer. Or, Fiat Ducato on a decent,
if you want to go
coach build. Yeah. And I just don't see why you would want, it's horses for courses, whatever.
There's nostalgia, but then there comes a point where you want to have a bit of comfort and a bit of everything else.
Well, look, that's why VW have released the ID Buzz, because of the whole harking back to that style of motoring, because they're not any bigger. They're not the size of a T6 or a Heimer or whatever.
No,
else.
They're slightly smaller.
Yeah.
And Volkswagen have released not the ID Buzz, because that's electric, isn't it?
Yeah.
But there's another one they've released, which is, it's kind of an in-between size. It's like, do you remember not the Chiran, the Touran?
Yep.
It's like a bigger version of the Touran.
Okay.
I can't remember what it's called, but basically it's a smaller transporter.
Okay.
Have you not seen it?
Maybe have. We'll have to have a look for that.
It's quite a cool little thing. I am going to show you something, and this sums up where I'm at with my hobby.
Okay, so we're going to have to try and describe it to the listeners here, because and we'll stick it in the show notes, whatever Ben's going to show me. Right. We haven't seen it yet, so was this another picture from the 90s and all that other stuff?
This is where the scene is at.
Okay.
Right? That car cost me, including buying the car, less than $4,000 to build the whole car, including the turbo motor, everything. And I'm on loads of the Aircooled groups on Facebook, and prices of stuff is just astronomical.
Yeah.
And it doesn't represent what was a cheap hobby to me.
Yeah, so parts, everything's just...
So you want an engine for your Volkswagen camper, right? So 1900cc, it's 1600 standard, so it's bored out, no big deal, It's got mild performance cam, it's a used case. There's nothing special about it at all. If it makes 80 to 100 horsepower, you'd be lucky. Comes with twin carbs, doesn't come with a clutch or an exhaust. So 80 to 100 horsepower, you can go and buy like an 80 to 100 horsepower Zafira engine for like 50 quid.
Yeah.
How much do you reckon?
Oh, I don't know. Again, is it a couple of grand?
Keep going.
5.
Keep going.
10.
7,950. $8,000 for an 80 horsepower engine, and I just think that is just
that's nuts.
That's mental.
That's not where
you buy a 2JZ Toyota
exactly.
super engine cheaper than that.
Yeah, and I just think it is
but
just
people are buying them.
And
completely.
That's
the thing.
And I just think it's obscene, and that's not me being kind of I've got an axe to grind or any bitterness
Yeah.
or any. It's just like, no, it just don't represent to me what this scene was all about.
Yeah.
You know, what we did as kids. And I know things progress. But £8,000 for an 80 horsepower engine.
Is part of it, in your opinion,
Yeah.
is it a bit of a pissing competition now? Who can spend the more money to keep a more original, crappy thing in some ways?
I don't know. I mean, listen, there's vans out there. I know of quite a few of these vans. They've got well over 200 grand invested in them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But
But everybody's got their thing.
Yeah. Yeah, well, so
know?
you're going to Bug Jam, you're DJing,
Yep.
you're in the scene. You must be starting to get a bit of work then off these guys,
No,
or
because it was just I was out there to enjoy myself.
Okay.
You know, so the whole tuning thing didn't start until I moved over here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right.
I think the first one I tuned, like I did my own tuning on my own stuff for years.
Okay. Yeah.
But then when I came over here, it was just slowly tinkering about, doing bits for people, and then.
Yeah.
Sorry, I went off on another. I'm good at this.
No,
going off on tangents.
That's what we're here for.
I'm
But
really
we
good
have
at it.
we have not much of an agenda at all. You know.
And I came over here, and people were like, "Oh, could you tune this for me? Could you tune that for me?" And when I came over with the Oval, that was really one of the first hot street cars in the country, and a lot of people were like, "Oh yeah, this is where I want to go." And that engine was unbelievable. The first engine, it had Porsche rods in it. You know, it's a really nice. I mean, it's a 150 horsepower engine, but I mean, I lapped the Nürburgring in that car with that engine.
Yeah.
And it was the perfect combination.
Did you drive it over there too?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Whole lot.
Yeah,
Awesome.
the whole thing.
Did you bring your daughter's thing to keep you warm as well, or did you have a heater in that
No,
one?
didn't have a heater in that
No
one
heater.
either. And that was the middle of summer, so we were all right. But
Yeah.
that was a tour me and my wife did around Germany. It was brilliant.
Cracker.
But yeah, so the tuning aspect of it, just as I kind of have accidentally sort of stumbled into it, you know.
I don't understand how you could accidentally stumble. Obviously, people were seeing you doing it.
Yep.
And like,
yeah, and people saw that your car was quicker than theirs, so they got talking to you in car scenes and stuff like that. So I'm assuming that's how it kind of grew then.
Yeah, there was a lot of people like the Wilkinsons, you know.
Yeah,
Neil,
Neil,
they wanted to beat me so bad. Neil won't mind me saying this, right? He's actually got my old Oval now.
okay, awesome.
But yeah, those guys wanted to run the numbers, you know, and they weren't scared to get on with it. And I mean, it costs money, so much money to make a Volkswagen like go really fast.
Yeah.
But no, they got stuck in. I mean, Neil, with his old race car, he ran, I think, an 11.1. He was so close to run. He really wanted to run a 10.
Yeah.
You know, and it was in it. You know, on the right day, it would have run a 10, but he never quite got that number. But
And were you doing the drag racing before you came over here then? Santa Pod
was-
and all that sort of
yeah,
stuff?
I mean, I was there. I basically spent every weekend I could at Santa Pod from the age of 17.
Well, look, there we go. No wonder people knew fast car. He's building itself. Himself. I need to talk to that man because he can make my car fast. That we're simple beasts.
Yeah, I was never an engine builder. I got a friend in Armagh, Dave Wheatley, who's an incredible. He's genius. You know, he's got the fastest Beetle in Ireland. I mean, that's a 9-second car.
Wow. That's 9 seconds.
9 seconds. What's he gone? About 987 at 144 mile an hour, something like that.
Shit.
That's unreal.
Yeah, and that's through like a standard style gearbox, floor pan car. You know, there's nothing fancy about it. He built the engine himself, and the engine is incredible. It's you've got the wedge shape camper vans, which is the T3 or Type 25. Now, they were the first water-cooled ones. They were called water boxes.
Okay.
And it was basically like air-cooled flat four style with water-jacketed heads. And what Dave did was no, there weren't water-jacketed heads. There was a water jacket around the cylinders. And basically Dave machined the water jackets off of the block, converted it to an air-cooled style engine. I did the cylinder heads for that car, actually. I ported the heads for him, a set of Superflows, and he put it all together, and that thing went out and run 10s straight off the bat. And
It's just incredible.
started splitting cylinders. This is the cool bit. I love this bit. So he was splitting, you can buy aftermarket cylinders for these things and turn them to whatever size you want or whatever length you want. And with the boost he was running, he was just splitting the cylinders.
Yeah.
So it's like, right, I've had enough of this. I'm going to make my own cylinders.
Okay.
So he got in contact with someone and found out what material was used to make the Darton sleeves for the Subarus. Got hold of a billet of this stuff, and he turned his own cylinders in his shop.
Unbelievable.
Good God.
Unreal.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, it was phenomenal. Like, and now that thing, I mean, I don't know how much boost he's putting through it, but it's I think it's 450 horsepower, something like that.
And something that weighs
it's only
over a ton.
2.1 litres. It's not massive.
Okay.
And fair play to Mark and Liam at Elite Motor Performance in Armagh. I mean, they've done all the dyno work. That car has spent hundreds upon hundreds of hours on that dyno.
Yeah.
Mark has been instrumental in making that thing work. It's just phenomenal.
Well, here's the thing about setup, and it's just coming to me because you're obviously so. You take a lot of time in setting the car up. When you're on the drag strip, you only have 11 seconds
Yep.
to deal with. So everything you do up until that point, you can't do enough nearly. Would that be fair to say?
Yes. A lot of it, I mean, you go to a track and a track will be, you know, Santa Pod, you'll go there on like a non-event day and it won't be a prep track, you know, so it'll rubber in a bit over the day and it'll get faster. Then you'll get an event day where the track will be glued. But over here, you just get what you get. And Bishop's Court was always phenomenal. The 60 foot at Bishop's Court was
Really?
incredible. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was just...
Is that because it was so rough, or
No,
what makes it
they
different?
actually... I remember they melted a load of tar, just liquid tar, over the first sort of 100 foot of the track, both lanes. And that thing, you know, by mid-morning, once it had rubbered up, was unreal for grip. I mean, we see 60 foot stand in the 1.6s, I think it was, which is... I mean, that's really good. I think Michael White was 1.5s in the OMA Subaru.
Yeah.
You know, but that car's just an animal.
Yeah, phenomenal.
Yeah. And I'm hoping, we're going back to Bishop's Court, which I'm quite excited about.
Ooh, excellent.
So we can go on to the drag racing aspect of what we're going to be doing next year.
So you're into the Aircooled.
Yep.
You're going to the drag racing in England. Then you come over here, and you're known for drag racing. You're known for building fast cars. And then you're getting a bit of work, and now you're bringing the drag racing to Northern Ireland in a shape or form. So and now you're working with Straightliners. How has that whole thing come together?
Right, that's been probably 10 years in the making.
Okay.
We got involved with the previous guys at Bishop's Court.
Yep.
Excuse me. And every time we went there, it was like, oh man, this could be so much better. You know, there's so many ways you could improve this and give the racers a far better experience. Yeah. And eventually, like, we managed to sort of crack nuts, and I'm not, you know, head nuts, not me, and sort of form a relationship that we were there to help and improve what was already there. And so I started commentating, and, you know, a couple of the other guys, Dave Wheatley as well, and we all got involved because we thought that if we could improve it, the experience would be better for the racers, and that more would come and stay rather than come in and say, no, this isn't for me. Mm-hmm. This isn't, you know, it's not what I expected, or it's not how I want. I want good value for money. Ultimately, I want good value for money when I come and, you know, put my hard-earned cash down to come and race for the day. So we made a load of little improvements here and there, and by the end of it, I think we did great things at Bishop's Court, and we ended up creating an event called Drag Day, and that, in my opinion, is still the best event that's ever happened in this country, because we built something really special, and we built a relationship with the racers, which I think is so key. You know, my whole objective every time I go to the track, if I'm involved in running stuff, is to make people feel special. And you could have a guy like Michael White turn up, who's king of, he's king of the tree. He's the fastest car in Ireland. Well, it's not now. Barnaby Levy's beating, but realistically, on any given day at Bishop's Court, he's the fastest man now. Great guy. A lot of time for him. And then you've got a guy who turns up in his £500, Renault. And I think it's vital, absolutely vital, that I treat that guy with a £500 Renault and I put him on the same shelf as the Michael Whites of this world. And he has to feel special, because then he feels part of something.
Yeah.
You make someone feel part of something, they'll want to come back.
Yeah.
So that's always been my ethos with the racers. You make them feel special. Then you build a family. Not like a Vin Diesel style family, but you build something. And then you've got something that you can carry on into the future. And we were really going places. We had a great relationship with the racers. I mean, it was phenomenal. And then all of a sudden we lost Bishop's Court, and that was the end of that. So I decided to run drag day and a skilling.
At St Angelo?
Yep. And don't believe the hype about plasterers and the loads of money, Harry Enfield thing. To put Enniskillen on for one day, for one Sunday in the middle of September, that's a 20 grand gig.
Wow.
Jesus.
Yep.
I don't think those sorts of numbers would be
that's a 20,
bandied about in Northern Ireland for that type of thing.
20 grand gig.
Wow.
It's huge.
Which is why it's so important to see what you're doing with building that community. Not only you need people to come interested in it, and the people who do it want to know that there's events to go back to and work on their car and get better and faster and be competitive and get real fun out of it. But then you guys obviously need then, if that's the cost of the venues as well, it's like there's a whole ecosystem.
Yeah, completely. And one bad event will put anybody's lights out.
Yeah.
You won't be able to do it again. So
and I'm sure as well, Ben, it's one of the things, I've watched this through the forums and read, I'm always very aware of what people are talking about, what's going on, and people probably don't understand the cost involved in something like that there. Somebody wants to run what you brung for 20 or 30 quid, it just doesn't cut it.
Don't exist anymore.
No, man.
Those days are gone. You're you're going to be looking at £100. But in the grand scheme of things, £100 for a day out racing, still cheap.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, and it is a shame, but those days of the £40 to £60 days out racing have gone.
I think it harks back a wee bit to, again, what we talked about, the whole social media thing. All it needs is one person who didn't get enough races, or didn't get, he wanted to race somebody in a similar car or his mates or whatever else, and because they've got out at different times, and then suddenly he's bitching and moaning about, that cost me 100 quid and I only got 3 races in. So they probably don't understand the level of work and commitment in the whole lead up to it and the run up to it, and then all it probably needs is 2 or 3 people to be late for their times, and it screws up everybody else's timing on the grid.
I would be of the opinion that if someone's paying to race, they need value for money. So I would like, they always message me and say, how many runs do you think I could get you? And I said, I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't tell you, because we could have downtime on the track.
Yeah.
You cannot guarantee how many runs people are going to get. I would like to see them in double figures.
Yeah.
Because then I think you've had a good value day.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, go to Santa Pod. It's going to cost you minimum £1,000. You want to take your Yaris to Santa Pod. You've got your boat and you travel down there, plus your weekend racing. By the time you get home with your fuel and everything, you're going to get no change out of 1,500 quid.
Well, I used to do that 7 or 8 times a year. Do the drifting, in England. So I know exactly. And sometimes in the car park at Santa Pod, actually, did the drifting there. But yeah, totally. Like all this stuff, even track days and all the rest. It's 150 odd quid to do track skills at Kirkiston now. Like it is what it is. I hate that expression, but it is what it is, and that's where we are. But it still doesn't put those people that, it's still affordable for everyone, I believe, But the argument has always been, well, I can race at Santa Pod for the day for 40 quid.
It's like, why are you telling me that when you've got £600 worth of ferry costs in front of you?
Yeah,
they look at the small number, and it's like it's a non-argument.
Yeah.
And I had a few of the guys, the bike guys, messaged me. One of the guys after the last event at Enniskillen, which it's not my event. It wasn't Straightliners event. It was Kieran Coleman has set up Drag Racing Ireland. It was his event. And the guys messaged me after with the bikes and said, the categories, there should be more trophies for the categories, and I kind of do shoot from the hip with stuff. That if you want to have an opinion of what you think should happen, bring it to the table.
Get involved.
Get involved. It's no good bitching and whining to me after the event.
Yep.
If you have, and this guy has been phenomenal. He's bought his own burnout plates for the bikes up. I mean, he's instrumental, and I think he is a real key part for the bikes, drag racing in Ireland. He's just got that drive and enthusiasm that I think the bike guys need. They need someone like him. So I said to him, I was pretty abrupt, and I just said, look, you want something, bring it to me.
Yeah.
And we'll discuss it. Don't come to me after the event and say, this wasn't, we expected more. It's like, you want to grow what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
Come along for the ride and be prepared to put some work in yourself.
And are you finding, Ben, that more people are coming forward to try and, give help, give advice?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah,
you've got a smile on your face, man.
Look, I'm not surprised. Your enthusiasm for everything we've talked about so far, it's totally infectious. I want to go and get something air-cooled and go to pieces for having absolutely no idea what I'm doing.
But it brings it back, Andy, to there's nothing like, think about growing up, think about traffic light Grand Prix, think about everything else. When you're out with your mates, having a wee blast, there's nothing to beat that feeling, and then getting to do it on a track even for bragging rights to your mates about.
Yeah, and then the guys, they've raced their mates, they come back to the pairing lanes, and they're out the car and they're looking at each other's slips, and the banter is amazing.
They're smiling, they're talking, they're laughing.
It was incredible to watch that whole community build at Bishop's Court. With Honda guys, Volkswagen guys, Richard Bradley.
With his S410, the RB26.
And Richard's been, I think, quite instrumental in helping get momentum behind what we're doing as well. And because, Richard obviously comes from your background, big drift background.
Well, I know Richard. I went to uni with Richard,
He's, I suppose, it's funny, like, he's so obsessed. Like when he puts his mind to something and his efforts into something, it's like he's all in. There's no messing about. He's all in, and I love the fact that he's got on board with drag racing and Ursula. And Ursula's offered to help us out as well.
Fantastic.
Next year. So I have to say a big mention to Ryan Scott. He's one of the Honda guys, and he's been absolutely instrumental in acquiring the timing system for us. And he is basically, we are a limited company. It's myself, Ryan Scott, Trevor Duckworth of Straightliners, and we've put a team together that I think, yes, next year is going to be, I would say, a feeler year, if that's the right expression. That we will go out. We've got so much testing to do, loads of testing to do with the equipment and with the team. But next year, Drag Racing Ireland have got 4 events booked for next year for the calendar, and it's going to be a championship, which will be pretty much a first. So my job next year, or what I want to see from next year, is our team going out every time. Yeah, we're going to learn new stuff every time we go out. Yeah, there'll probably be areas where we've overlooked, and we learn from it. And every time we go out, our team's stronger, and it will leave us in a really good position come the end of next year
And you're the timing team,
Yep.
effectively.
Yep.
So the drag racing event is put on, and you guys come in and
Yep.
do the timing bit,
Absolutely.
and get that as smooth,
Yeah.
well-oiled machine,
Yep.
Swiss watch.
Yep, that's what I want. That is exactly what I want, because that's what the sport needs.
Yeah.
That it needs a team that is passionate about the sport for a start.
Yeah.
It needs people that love the sport,
Yeah.
which I believe we've now got, you know. It needs people to just, what's the word? Realise that this isn't, an in and out job. Mm-hmm. Fly by night.
You're here for the long term.
This is a major long term investment. We're here for the long haul because
because you've got the passion for it.
Because
you want to see it done properly.
I saw my sport die on its arse.
Yeah.
Completely. It was like someone pulled the rug from under my sport.
Yeah.
And it was like, right, we've now got guys and girls with cars with multiple tens of thousands of pounds invested in them, sitting in wherever, sheds, wherever. Mm-hmm. They haven't turned a wheel for 3 years.
Well, let me ask, now, this is an important question, and this is something kind of giving you a plug here, because you've said what it costs. You've talked about your own costs, your time, your everything else. This team doing it properly and professionally. This is a podcasting platform. What about sponsorship? Have you looked at things like that yet? Or
not yet.
Are you inviting
because
things like that?
We are in the very early stages of. Yes, we've got the team together. Yes, we've got the equipment, but it's testing. All I want to be doing is testing.
Do you want to have a package?
Oh man, I want to be absolutely smashing it the day before we open the gates.
Yeah.
I want my team there, or our team, shouldn't say our team there,
Yeah.
ready to go the evening before that event's going to happen. So the day we open the doors, everything is just precision. That's what I want.
Well, that's what you want, but again, I think with the reputation you have for everything you've done, Ben, and for a couple of podcasts I've listened to you on, as well as this podcast, I hope that people can get a sense of just your passion for things, that you're doing this for love, not for the money of it, not for you're doing this because this is something that you love. You want it to succeed. You want not even succeed, but you want to show people how it should be done.
Yep.
And I hope anybody listening to this here can.
Which sort of explains to me why you've went to Straightliners and you've partnered with those guys. So they are the
absolute best
tippy
in
top
the business.
Yep.
They are phenomenal. Trevor Duckworth, Paul Cumpstone, and all the other guys, Helen Great and Graham Greathead. They're just phenomenal.
And so let's talk about Straightliners first of all. In GB. So where do they run? Where do they run their? Where do they come in? Time events?
They will run wherever they can get a permit to go and run.
Okay,
so
Elvington,
they would run a lot at, because they do a lot of top speed there.
Yep.
They run at Ramsey, Isle of Man,
Yep.
Derby. And there's quite a few locations. They've done one in Scotland, which is meant to be absolutely phenomenal.
Okay. Creel is the only one I know in Scotland.
There's another one.
Okay.
I think it's Scotland, because Trevor was talking to me about it. We went out for dinner the night before, and we were talking about these venues. And Graham Sykes was working for Straightliners. Now, I'd love you to check out Graham Sykes on Facebook. He's built a steam-powered rocket bike.
Okay, that sounds pretty awesome.
Oh, man, this guy.
A wee bit left field.
Yeah, it's insane. It is absolutely off the chart insane. And the guy is... I sat and spoke to him about this steam-powered rocket bike and realised within about 5 seconds out of my depth. I was there it is.
Yeah, we'll put a picture of that in the show notes.
But the guy is just so tuned in,
That's not what I was expecting. That looks like a manufacturer built.
It's unreal
machine.
But the loveliest guy.
Yeah.
So approachable. He's happy to sit and talk to you about all of he's had a fairly long career working with Straightliners, and that's what I love about the Straightliners crew, that they've been around this sport for decades.
Yeah.
they're so well versed in this sport, and they're so still passionate. I mean, Trevor Duckworth got the old York Dragway. He managed to get that back up and running. It's Melbourne Raceway in York, and that was never ever in a million years going to happen. Until they said, right, we'll make this happen, and they've got 8 or 10 rounds there next year. They've had the whole thing resurfaced up to 8th Mile at the moment, but it's all the money that was that came to build that venue was all raised. It's all public money raised by drag racers. It's phenomenal. And we're not talking like 50 grand here. You know, we're talking big money. Yeah. And the drag racing community just got behind it, and they just threw their weight at it, and they've been absolutely phenomenal.
Is that something, Ben, you had talked about coming back to Bishopscourt? So, people think Enniskillen's the other end of the country when it's not really that far of a drive. Bishopscourt probably is a lot handier for people, and it's a bit. So, what's the plans for Bishopscourt, or is there much you can talk about at the minute?
Well, I haven't. Kieran Coleman of Drag Racing Ireland has a package put in place with Bishopscourt, the owners of Bishopscourt. So he has got 2 events booked for there next year. Next year for us is going to be about building relationships with those venues, those owners, and working together. It's so important that we're working together.
Because you're part of the picture. You're the timing guys, and you work with the promoters and the venue owners. And
the bottom line is, without us, there'll be no drag racing in this country.
Yeah.
So yes, promoters have got to make money. I get that. Yes, venues have got to make money, but there has to be some form of middle ground for everybody that we still make this affordable. That the promoter can come away and say, I've got enough money that goes back into the pot for the next round, that I as a promoter can survive in this sport. The venue needs their cut to say, we can survive and keep the gates open. We obviously need to get paid. Otherwise, we've only got to get four timing beams wiped out by a rider or a driver, and that'll cause us a serious financial headache. I mean, I've got a button, like starter button for the LED tree. We've got an amazing new LED tree. It's such a nice bit of kit.
It's well, and I haven't done a lot of drag racing and all, but it is definitely the coolest thing.
Right, here's one for you. Right, you two, right. I will pay your entry to the first round of the season.
Now we're done talking.
So
yeah,
right.
Could we put a Yaris up against the E46 M3? Because we've seen all the car.
If I still have it by then.
If you still have it,
yeah.
No, I will give you two an entry to the first round of the season, right? And
fantastic.
You can come down and you can say, do you know what? He was talking a load of Essex twaddle out of his backside. I say, I promised I wouldn't swear. And or you can say, do you know what? Yeah, he meant what he said.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Proof, I can sit here.
I'm up for that.
I can sit here and say all this, but the proof's in the eating.
I'm going to leave a Toyota clutch slang on the start line.
You won't.
I've got this new diff, this 4-1 diff in the entry,
so I
have to try it.
Yeah.
No, what you need is bags of excuses. Bring them and you'll be fine.
We can do that.
But we're also, check this out, we're also going to Kyrgyzstan.
Oh, right, okay.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
We are, there is an agreement with Kyrgyzstan, with Drag Racing Ireland, but we need to get a permit in for that.
On the back straight or where about? Yeah.
Yep. But we need to put a permit in for that.
Okay.
Every race we go to or plan to go to, we have to apply for a permit for insurance purposes. So ultimately, it's not our say as to whether we can.
There's something there in principle.
We've agreed in principle that we can time it, subject to an insurance permit.
Okay.
I will be doing maybe you could take me down there one day and we'll do a full survey of Kyrgyzstan's.
I have Kyrgyzstan surveys, yes. I'm up for that also.
So, yeah, it's exciting.
And obviously we've got a brilliant relationship with St Angelo. Fantastic relationship. Alan Cathcart there, who owns the venue, he's phenomenal to work for or work with.
Cool.
So.
Now, the question I want to ask, because we've talked about Aircooled, we've talked about N3s, we've talked about Yaris's, we've talked about everything else.
Yep.
My feed, my YouTube feed as well, since we were talking, I knew you were coming down to do this with the thing. Teslas, electric cars, drag racing.
Yep.
What's your take on it?
We've managed to quiet
shut up
the Essex boy.
An Essex boy here, man.
I'm all for it.
Do you know what?
I'm all for it.
I think drag racing for EVs is a huge part of trying to build like a car scene around EVs.
I am all for it. I'll tell you why I'm all for it, because a couple of friends of mine built a electric drag Beetle years ago called Black Current. And
what a name.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Ben and Sam Young, and they developed that car over, I don't know, 10, 15 years now. That car's now in its third guise. If you look up Black Current 3, that car is now in its third guise. And those guys have... those guys have been pioneers in...
Google just brought up some comedy.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, it might be Black Current 4 now. I can't know. Is it Black Current 4
well,
now?
This is one that's doing a
937 at 147. Yeah, that's the old car. So they've got a new car now.
Did I maybe see Johnny Smith do a video
there
on
it
this?
is. Down, if you... Bottom right. Sorry, they've based it on the new Beetle.
Yeah.
So that's an old Beetle, yeah.
Yeah.
That's Johnny Smith's video. Yeah. So that's Sam. But if you ever get time, sit down and watch that video. So it's on
the Late Break Show.
The Late Break Show. Johnny Smith's widest home-built electric Beetle promises to become the world's fastest EV. Now, Ben and Sam have pioneered electric drag racing in the UK, if not in Europe. And so for me, I think that, to say, what do you think about Teslas? Yeah, they've totally got their place in the sport. These guys, you want to see what they've had to do to be allowed to run that car at Santa Pod.
Well, I'm as you can see with the red bar under that, I did watch that video, and we all have a bit of nice engineering.
Yeah,
I think
that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
So I think that doesn't matter if it's an EV. If there's good engineering in it, I think I'm all into it.
I think
kind of like what they've been made to do.
What I would like to see is, it will take a long time to make that happen, is EV class racing. And I think that then the argument between the electric and the internal combustion engine stuff will then stop.
Yeah.
Because everybody at the moment is saying, well, my Bugatti Chiron's being beaten by a plaid. But for me, I don't see an issue with it at all. I think the whole EV thing is phenomenal, yet I have a bit of trepidation with it as well. I don't know whether... Yeah, it's the future, but you've only got to look at what's happening in Ukraine, our electricity supply and stuff like that. It's like, we're in a real transition moment in many, many ways, not just with our transportation. And so I think the next 10 years is going to be, wait and see.
Wait and see.
Yeah, completely. But I totally agree that
I think it's really exciting just to see. There's that kid over in America. He's got the white Tesla Model 3. Completely stripped out, and he's destroying
street racing
everything
for cash.
Street race,
cash days,
destroying everything around. I just think it's Rick off RMS, Rick with the RS6. This running just shy of 1,000 horsepower. He said to Pete a few times he'd put it up against the Tesla.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And that would be a good race.
That would be a good race.
See the bottom right there. Have you watched that one yet?
Gordon Murray's.
Yeah.
No, I haven't watched that yet.
I watched that last night.
Yeah.
That is one of the best builds I've ever seen.
Oh, really? Right. I'm gonna.
Did you?
So this is Johnny Smith. In Gordon Murray's bunker.
Yep.
With all the stuff, I've watched the first video.
Yep.
And I haven't watched it. Did I drop it into this
So
week's podcast that I met Johnny Smith recently? No.
Did you really?
You never said that before, did you?
I did. Yeah. Over at Sniff and Smith live podcast at the Morgan Factory.
I think he's a cracking presenter.
He's brilliant.
You know, he's so good at what he does.
Yeah.
You know, he actually, I think, he's got Volkswagen roots, Johnny. I think he worked for Volkswagen at one point. I can't remember.
He used to work for Max Power. But maybe he worked for Performance VW or someone like that, did he? Maybe?
Might have been Performance VW, yeah. I had a feature in Performance VW once.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, well, it was a picture.
Reader's wives section.
Yeah, it was back when I had long ginger flowing mane. Well, we won't talk about that. But yeah, watch that, because that is... I think I put a thread on it a couple of years ago about Gordon Murray's Mark 1 Escort being built by Retro Power.
Yeah.
And we just kept updating the thread every time Retro Power brought out a new video. Man, those guys have just done an incredible job.
Awesome.
I mean, and I'm going to give a nod to a friend of mine as well. Now we're talking about escorts. Check out Russell Lord's Ford.
Okay.
Johnny Smith's actually done a bit on him.
Okay.
He's a jeweller from my neck of the woods.
Right. Okay.
And he's built a Mark 2 Escort out of solid silver. No plans, no measurements, nothing. All by eye, and it is insane. All diamond jewellery, it is off the chart.
Unreal.
And he's now doing a bubble arch Mark 1, the bubble. And I went and see him about 3 or 4 weeks ago, because he's doing something for me. And it's fun.
If you're listening, just Google this at home. I'm not going to keep up with this with the show notes here. I'll have a million links.
Russell Lord's Ford.
Yeah.
The guy is just, he's obsessed with Fords. He's got 2 or 3 Mark 1s now. He's got a twin cam Mark 1. He's got, he's just brought back his old Mark 1 that he was dating his wife Kay in. And he's got a Mark 2 rally car. He's got a Mark 1 rally car as well. But he always does, like pretty much every evening, he'll be either doing something about his escorts at home, what he's doing and working on, or he'll be doing something in the jewellery shop, sitting. He's got this place out the back where he is literally sitting there making the Mark 1 Escort, and the guy is genius, And me and Russell have built up. It's funny, I dropped in on one day. I just dropped into him. It was when we were doing drag day, and he'd only just really been getting going. And I thought, I'm going to drop in and see this guy. So I dropped into the shop and I gave him a T-shirt, because I just said, look, I've been following you. I'm not a Ford man, but I've been following what you do, and I think it's just incredible. And from that day, me and him have become amazing friends.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, unbelievable. I would literally do it. If he rang me tonight and said, I'm in trouble, I'd do whatever. Yeah. I mean, he's had me going around the country looking at Mark 1 Escorts for him. Oh, Ben, check this one out. Could you go and look at this one for me? And, it's not a problem.
Yeah.
When you meet someone in life that that there's not, it's not like they're trying to get something like, how can you describe it? It's not what's in it for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like you've met someone where, you go backwards and forwards, and there's no, it's unconditional. There's no conditions on the friendship that you've just made. It's a rare thing. It's a rare thing when you get to my age, because you just think everybody's an arsehole.
Yeah. Everyone's after something. Yeah. Well,
and he's the most phenomenal guy. And I'm really lucky to have met him,
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. Well, look, the events, you have 3 or 4 events coming up this year.
Yep.
Roughly, when's the first one? March, Bishop's Court?
Is it Bishop's Court or Kirky? I think it might be Bishop's Court.
You'll post it. You'll post it on the forum. Let us know.
I'll let you know.
We'll talk about it in the pod.
Bring a snowplow.
Yeah. perfect time, Ross. Imagine an E46 with a short ratio diff in the lashing rain. We Yaris on the flipping $7,000 with a side step will touch the ceiling.
No, I absolutely promise you. Like, I'm a man with words. You know. You're coming drag racing. First round of the season is on
awesome.
Me.
I'm going to have to do something back. I'm going to have to like sponsor something back to you because honestly, I really appreciate it.
I need a new wash mitt.
we can work with that.
You know how much I wash my cars.
I just thought, Ross, you were sitting there going, and what type of tar do they put in this eighth of a mile? you just have like a tar remover. Oh, yeah. Awesome. Ben, thanks very much for that. Do you know what? We've touched on EVs, and one of our members, we normally get asked questions. We don't really have time for questions today, but the Daniel at RMS asked a good question. It's kind of topical. And he said, look, I know you guys love the EVs and EV chats. He said, but my theory is that EV is just a phase, and that synthetic fuel or e-fuel, that the likes of Porsche is developing, is a thing of the future. Ben's shaking his head. I think these companies claiming that will go EV by a specific year will do a U-turn sometime within the next 10 years because the fuels are too expensive. So I did have a look. The fuel is too expensive, and the cars aren't ready to run on it. But at the same time, what do we run our container ships on and planes and all that sort of stuff?
Jet fuel.
Because you can't put 10 tons of batteries in the EasyJet.
No, and I had a friend who worked. He was in the Navy for years, and he would work he was on the destroyers, and he told me some crazy stat that how many yards a destroyer does to how many gallons upon. I mean, we're talking hundreds of gallons. You know, it was nuts.
Yeah,
how many nautical yards this thing would go on.
Yeah,
such an insane amount of fuel. You know, but I don't know. We've had electric submarines, haven't we?
Yeah,
we got nuclear subs. Not. I don't know.
Were you thinking of have a nuclear Prius or something?
A nuclear fission Beetle.
Marty. I think that EV isn't going to be the be all end all solution. I think hydrogen probably. We've had what's the Clarity CFX, the Honda. I thought that was, possible leap forward when it came out.
They built one of these. They built Toyota built a hydrogen GR Yaris.
Yeah, but the Clarity CFX was a hydrogen catalyst battery cell car. It wasn't an internal combustion engine run on hydrogen. So completely different. With the Yaris, they've converted it to run on hydrogen, and I think that the amount of horsepower that you get from the hydrogen, and I can't remember. It's like something like 30%. It's nowhere near what standard petrol.
That's the only way you would win that drag race, by the way, is if I brought a hydrogen GR.
Hydrogen,
and it's. I think we will end up. Everyone's saying hydrogen's the future. No, it's not. No way. EV's the future. I think it's probably one of the best shots at taking the percentage share of the market, but I think we will end up with a multiple solution to the internal combustion engine.
Now, the hydrogen fuel cell car, and I like the idea of it doesn't give off anything, it's just you just put water into it, whatever else. And that it uses battery technology that is really advancing at it uses electric motor technology that's advancing at a massive rate. And it solves the palladium and the rare metals issue and all that sort of stuff as well. But why is it not working at scale? Is it a government driven thing? Is it a manufacturer driven thing?
I can't answer that.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's you could get down a lot of conspiracy rabbit holes with that one there, but I think that in itself is a topic that needs a wee bit more.
We need someone on who
is actually smart.
Yeah.
But here's the thing with EV, where I think EV has cocked up massively.
already that you've got the potential for it to be a massive infrastructure globally, and you've got a system that relies on charging. Well, what do you do at a petrol station? You fill up within a minute max. Yeah, well, there should have been like a platform, a generic platform for every vehicle that's going to hit the EV market.
Yeah.
That would have an interchangeable battery service. So that you drive up to a petrol garage, your battery pack gets switched out within, say, a couple of minutes. Yeah. Then they get shipped away, onto the property somewhere.
Yep.
And they're being charged again.
Yeah. There's a rotisserie underneath the garage charging these things up.
And I think that's it's an expense thing probably. But I think that was like, if you were going to do something like that to me sounded like a valid solution. But then,
and if it was that quick, you would maybe get away with smaller batteries and less range, and then you have lighter cars and better to drive and that sort of stuff too.
Hey, who am I? I'll stick to my old wheezy 40 horsepower Volkswagens that were designed to run on 2-star.
So thanks for your question, Daniel. We haven't a Scooby Doo what we're talking about there, and we're just driven by market forces. If what's going to be sold is our EVs, and that's and the infrastructure here is terrible for it, but that's what we're going to be put up with.
But the thing is, Northern Ireland should be a benchmark. Smallest, small country. Yeah. Get the infrastructure, throw infrastructure at it, and become a benchmark country.
There is probably loads of money sitting, European money, that's just tied up in Stormont.
You could have made this place just phenomenal. Yeah. As that everybody could look at us and go, do you know what?
Yep.
They've licked that.
Yeah.
But no.
I know. Oh no, we're flipping third world in comparison. I know.
Sure, you still listen to like 2 Unlimited and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
No.
Fantastic. Look, I think we're going to pull this into the pits here. Ben, thanks very much for coming on.
It's been a privilege.
Thank you, man.
I'm really humbled to have,
stop it.
No, seriously. Because look, I'm just some bloke from Essex that just does stuff, and it's like it's like going back to what we were saying about when people phone me up to tune a car. It's a real humbling experience to be asked to do stuff. It's a privilege.
And the other thing we were talking about as well, and this is what I love about this podcast, is people that we bump into at Cars and Coffee or the show or whatever else, never really get a chance to know the person or what to do or the backstory and all the rest. And the people we've spoken to, the likes of yourself and all the rest in the podcast, that is a privilege because we're able to hear. And it's great we can ask you. You don't feel, embarrassed. What about he did, or what's his background, or what's that accent?
Do you know something?
How long's he been here for?
He's just a fucking nice guy. That's it, literally in a nutshell. He's a nice guy.
Yeah. Don't look under the veneer.
On our nosy podcast to find it all about it. But look, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Loved every minute.
Good fun. And I think we'll be back to normal service next time, where we just talk shit about other stuff that we have or haven't been doing. Thanks for listening. Please remember to like, subscribe, do all the things you're supposed to do to let people know about the pod, and we're everywhere at RMS Motoring, and of course on rmsmotoring.com on the forum. If you want to ask us questions, ask us on the forum or on the socials, and thanks for joining us. And remember, there's no warranty. This was sold as seen.